What if I told you that the same people who laughed at my cute little mom hobby are now begging for selfies with me? What if I told you that those 3 a.m. feeding sessions were not just about keeping my baby alive? They were about birthing a $1 million empire that would silence every doubter who ever called me just a mom? My name is Zara Langford, and for the longest time, people saw me as nothing more than a walking stereotype. A mom in yesterday's sweatpants. A woman whose biggest achievement was keeping tiny humans alive while surviving on 2 hours of sleep and cold coffee. Not an innovator. Not a visionary. Not a businesswoman. Just a tired mother with a double stroller, a messy bun that had not seen a brush in 3 days, and a diaper bag that looked like a war zone. Bursting with crushed goldfish crackers, sticky fruit pouches, and mysterious stains I had stopped trying to identify. But here is what they could not see. Here is what they refused to acknowledge. I had ideas. Revolutionary ideas. Ideas that kept me awake even when exhaustion should have knocked me unconscious. And one of those ideas came to me during the most unlikely moment, my third consecutive 3 a.m. feeding session with my youngest, Mila, screaming like her life depended on it, while my 2 toddlers, Kai and Luna, were somehow still asleep on either side of me on our cramped couch. The bottle was ice cold. Again. I had warmed it 20 minutes earlier, but between changing a diaper, cleaning up spilled juice, and breaking up a fight over a stuffed elephant, the formula had returned to room temperature. Mila was not having it. She was hungry, furious, and letting the entire neighborhood know about it. As I stumbled to the kitchen for the 4th time that night, juggling a screaming baby and trying not to trip over scattered toys, something clicked in my exhausted brain. What if I created a hands-free bottle warmer that attached to strollers, car seats, even your hip? Something that would keep bottles at the perfect temperature no matter where you were. No matter what chaos was happening around you? I called it momentum, because that is all moms ever need. Just a little momentum to keep moving forward when everything feels impossible. The idea consumed me. During nap time, instead of sleeping, I researched patents and temperature control technology. During playground visits, I surveyed other mothers about their feeding struggles. During grocery runs, I studied product designs and heating mechanisms. My notebook became filled with sketches, calculations, and desperate scribbles written while holding a baby or pushing a swing. But when I finally worked up the courage to share my vision, the reactions were devastating. At a family barbecue 3 months later, I approached my cousin Derek, a successful marketing executive who never missed an opportunity to discuss his latest disruptive business ventures. He was holding court near the grill, telling anyone who would listen about his cryptocurrency investments and startup connections. "Derek," I said, bouncing Mila on my hip while Kai tugged at my shirt, "I have been working on this incredible product idea. A portable bottle warmer that could revolutionize how parents feed their babies on the go." He paused mid-sentence, looked at me with barely concealed amusement, and then burst into laughter so loud it attracted the attention of half the party. "Oh my God, look at you, turning mom life into a startup. That is absolutely precious." He wiped tears from his eyes. "Who is going to invest in a tired mom with no business degree? Zara, honey, you can barely keep your kids from crying. You think you can run a company?" His friends joined in the laughter. "Sounds more like an Etsy side hustle than a real business," one of them said. "Maybe you should focus on being a mom first." But the worst reaction came from someone I respected, my former boss, Jessica, a successful woman who had built her own consulting firm. When I called her for advice a few days later, her response shattered something inside me. "Zara, sweetie, why do not you just enjoy motherhood while you can? You will have time for your dreams later. Right now your babies need you. Business can wait." Later. Always later. But later did not exist when I was drowning in formula costs and overdue bills. Later did not exist when my children needed things now, when rent was due now, when my family was struggling now. Later was a luxury I could not afford. So I made a decision that would change everything. I decided to turn nap breaks into business hours. I decided to run market research through Facebook mom groups during midnight feeding sessions. I decided to build my first prototype from spare parts one found in our cluttered garage. The first prototype was ugly. It looked like something a child might create from random kitchen appliances and duct tape. But it worked. It kept bottles warm for hours. It was lightweight, portable, and hands-free. My baby cried while I worked. My fingers bled from cutting metal and plastic. My back ached from hunching over workbenches while babies napped in car seats nearby. But I did not stop. Every rejection fueled me. Every dismissive comment became motivation. Every person who called my dream cute or unrealistic became another reason to prove them catastrophically wrong. I spent 8 months testing, refining, and perfecting my design. I found manufacturers through online forums. I learned about patents by watching YouTube videos after my children went to bed. I discovered supply chain management through trial and error and countless mistakes. My husband, Marcus, watched me with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Zara, are you sure about this? The kids, the house, now this business. It is a lot." But he saw something others missed. He saw the fire in my eyes. He saw how alive I became when I talked about momentum. He saw how this dream was not taking away from my role as a mother. It was amplifying it. When I finally launched my simple website and posted a demo video to TikTok, I had no expectations. It was a 90-second video filmed on my phone, showing how momentum worked during a real car trip with my 3 children. No fancy editing. No professional lighting. Just me, explaining how this device had saved my sanity, while my kids provided authentic background chaos. The video went viral in ways I never imagined possible. 5 million views in 3 days. Comments flooded in from mothers around the world. "Where has this been my entire parenting life? I am crying. This is exactly what I needed when my twins were babies. Take my money. I need this now." Orders started coming in faster than I could process them. Not just from moms in my city or state, but from parents across the country. Hospitals started inquiring about bulk orders. Traveling parents sent desperate emails begging for rush delivery. A neonatal nurse in Kenya somehow found my video and placed an order, explaining how momentum could help mothers in her clinic who had to walk long distances while feeding premature babies. That message made me cry for an hour. I was not just solving my own problem anymore. I was solving a universal struggle that connected mothers across continents, cultures, and circumstances. Within 6 months, I went from working alone in my garage to managing a small team of other stay-at-home mothers who worked flexible hours while their own children napped. Women who understood the hustle, who knew what it meant to build something meaningful while raising tiny humans. The name Momentum was not just the brand anymore. It became a movement. A symbol of what happens when you refuse to accept limitations others place on you. Sales exploded. Customer testimonials poured in daily. Parents shared videos of Momentum making their lives easier, their travels smoother, their feeding routines less stressful. But the moment that changed everything came exactly 11 months after I posted that first TikTok video. I was responding to customer emails during Mila's afternoon nap, when a direct message appeared on my business Instagram account. The profile picture showed the Shark Tank logo. My heart stopped. "Hi Zara, this is Amanda from Shark Tank Casting. We have been following Momentum, and we are incredibly impressed. We have never seen a pitch story quite like yours, real, raw, and actually useful. Your product is solving a genuine problem, and your business growth is remarkable. Are you ready to swim with the sharks?" I stared at the message for 10 minutes, convinced it was fake. Convinced someone was playing an elaborate prank on the tired mom with big dreams. But it was real. 3 weeks later, I was standing in the Shark Tank studio, wearing a $90 blazer I had bought secondhand from a consignment shop, heels I had not worn since before childbirth, and a heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The lights were blinding. The cameras felt invasive. The sharks looked exactly as intimidating as they did on television. But I was ready. I walked to the center of that studio and told my story exactly as it happened. No sugarcoating. No glossing over the struggles. No pretending the journey had been easy. I told them about being dismissed and mocked. I told them about bleeding fingers and sleepless nights. I told them about building a business while changing diapers and surviving on determination alone. Then I showed them the numbers that made their eyes widen. $1.4 million in sales in just 10 months. Customer return rate of 0.3%, practically unheard of in the baby product industry. Over 20,000 testimonials from real mothers who said Momentum had transformed their parenting experience. Profit margins that made Kevin O'Leary lean forward with interest. Patent pending status that made Lori Grainer nod with approval. The studio fell silent. You could hear cameras adjusting focus. You could feel the energy shift. Then the offers started coming. Mark Cuban offered $300,000 for 25% equity. Kevin O'Leary proposed a royalty deal that would have made me rich immediately. Robert Herjavec wanted to invest in scaling the manufacturing operation. Damon John saw licensing opportunities one had never considered. But it was Lori Grainer who made the offer that felt like destiny. "Zara," she said, leaning forward with genuine emotion in her voice, "you remind me of myself when I started. Except you have something I did not have. You have more grit. You built this while raising 3 children. You proved every doubter wrong. I want to be your partner." She offered $400,000 for 20% equity, plus her expertise in retail partnerships and product development. I accepted without hesitation. Walking out of that studio, I felt like I was floating. The tired mom in sweatpants had just negotiated a deal on national television with one of the most successful female entrepreneurs in America. The episode aired 6 months later, and the response was overwhelming. Momentum is now available in Target stores nationwide. Bye Bye Baby features us in their premium baby gear section. We earned Amazon's choice status within weeks of launching on their platform. Our team has grown to 15 employees, mostly mothers who needed flexible, meaningful work that honored their dual roles as parents and professionals. We have expanded the product line to include car adapters, different size options, and even a version designed specifically for special needs children. But the sweetest moment came at the next family barbecue. Derek approached me with his phone out, asking for a selfie. "Zara, I have to get a picture with you. My friend's wife is absolutely obsessed with Momentum. She says it saved her sanity during their cross-country move with twin babies." I smiled and handed him one of our newest models. "Here," I said. "For the future. When you grow up enough to recognize opportunity instead of dismissing it." His face turned red, but he took the product anyway. At that same barbecue, Jessica, my former boss who had told me to wait until later, cornered me by the dessert table. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I was wrong. I projected my own fears about balancing motherhood and career onto you. What you have built is incredible. You did not wait for permission or perfect timing. You just did it." They used to call me just a mom. Now they call me CEO. But here is what I want every mother reading this to understand. I am still the same person who wore sweatpants to the grocery store and survived on cold coffee and pure determination. The difference is not that I became someone new. The difference is that I refused to accept other people's limitations on who I could become. Your dreams are not too small because you are a mother. Your ideas are not less valuable because they were born from maternal struggles. Your timing is not wrong because you have children to raise. The world needs solutions created by people who understand real problems. And mothers? We understand problems better than anyone. We know what it feels like to be exhausted and still keep going. We know how to find solutions with limited resources. We know how to prioritize, multitask, and make something from nothing. Those are not weaknesses to overcome. Those are superpowers to leverage. Every time someone tells you to wait until later, remember that later is not guaranteed. Every time someone dismisses your idea as cute or unrealistic, remember that the best innovations come from people who were told they could not succeed. Momentum started as a desperate solution during a 3 a.m. feeding session. It became $1 million business because I refused to believe that being a mother meant giving up on being anything else. You are not just a mom. You are not just anything. You are a force of nature with untapped potential and solutions the world desperately needs. The only question is, what will you build? Your momentum starts now. If this story inspired you to pursue your own dreams despite the doubters, please subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of people who refused to accept limitations and built extraordinary lives from ordinary circumstances. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. because your next breakthrough might be just one story away. This song came from a really dark period in my life, he would say when asked about shattered glass. I lost someone very close to me, and the only way I could process that grief was through music. Writing this song was like performing surgery on my own heart. Or when discussing Midnight Confessions, the song I had written about feeling invisible and unheard. I think a lot of people struggle with feeling like their voice does not matter, like they are shouting into the void. This song was my way of saying that everyone has something important to say, even if the world is not ready to listen. Every lie felt like a betrayal. Every interview where he claimed credit for my emotional experiences and creative insights felt like watching him steal pieces of my soul and sell them to strangers. But the worst part was not the lies he told the public. The worst part was how those lies started to change the way he saw our relationship. You know, he said one evening as we watched one of his interviews on a late-night talk show, I never realized how naturally songwriting came to me until I started working with professional producers. They keep saying I have this intuitive understanding of melody and narrative structure. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline or the acknowledgement that he was joking. But his expression was completely serious. Jason, I said carefully, you do realize that those songs, that the melody and narrative structure they are praising, that came from me, right? He looked genuinely confused for a moment, like I had said something that did not make sense. Well, yeah, I mean we worked on them together, he said. But the way I interpreted them, the way I brought them to life in the studio, that was all me. You wrote words on paper. I turned them into actual music. The audacity was breathtaking. The complete rewriting of our collaborative history was so bold and shameless that I almost admired it. I wrote words on paper. I repeated slowly. And melodies. And chord progressions. And harmonies. And literally every creative element that makes those songs what they are. Come on, Lena, he said, his voice taking on that patronizing tone that men use when they want to make women feel like they are being unreasonable. You are being dramatic. Obviously, you contributed to the creative process. But turning a bedroom demo into a professional recording that connects with audiences, that takes skills you just do not have yet. Skills I just did not have yet. As if my lack of industry connections and professional recording experience somehow diminished the value of my creativity. That night, after Jason fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling and finally admitted to myself what I had been avoiding for months. He was never going to give me credit. He was never going to acknowledge my contributions. He was never going to see me as anything more than his secret weapon, his hidden source of inspiration that he could tap whenever his own creativity ran dry. And worse than that, he was starting to believe his own lies. He was beginning to genuinely think that his role in performing and promoting my songs made him their true creator. I started making plans. The first step was documenting everything. I gathered every email, every text message, every voice memo that proved my authorship of the songs on honest words. I found the original demo recordings I had made on my phone, complete with timestamps that predated Jason's studio sessions by months or even years. I screenshot our conversations where we discussed lyrical changes and melodic adjustments, conversations that clearly showed me as the creative originator and him as the interpreter. The second step was more complicated. I needed to start building my own artistic identity separate from Jason and his career. I created a new social media account under the name Lena Wren, a combination of my first name and my middle name that felt both familiar and fresh. I started posting short acoustic covers of popular songs, just me and my guitar in my tiny apartment, nothing fancy or professionally produced. But I also started posting original material, songs I had written but never shared with Jason, songs that were too personal or too experimental for his commercial aspirations. I would post them late at night, when the algorithm was more likely to push content to international audiences, and I would accompany each video with captions that hinted at deeper stories without revealing too much. This one is about what happens when someone you trust decides you are worth more in the shadows than in the spotlight. I wrote under a song called Invisible Contributor. Sometimes the people closest to you become the ones who make you feel most alone. I captioned a track called Credit Where Due. The response was immediate and encouraging. People connected with the raw emotion in my voice, the intimate setting of my bedroom recordings, the sense that they were witnessing something authentic and unfiltered. My follower count grew slowly but steadily, and the comments on my videos were filled with messages from other artists who had experienced similar feelings of invisibility and creative frustration. But it was a video I posted in late July that changed everything. I had written a new song called Unwritten Theft, inspired by my relationship with Jason, but crafted in a way that spoke to anyone who had ever felt their contributions overlooked or their creativity stolen. The lyrics were sharp and specific enough to feel personal, but universal enough to resonate with a broader audience. You took my words and made them yours, sang my truth through your voice. Now they cheer for what you stole. But I never had a choice. You said no one would believe me, that my name would not sell. Now your spotlight burns so bright. But it is built on my hell. I recorded it in a single take, sitting cross-legged on my bed with my guitar. My voice raw with months of suppressed anger and frustration. I did not overthink the production or worry about perfect audio quality. I just wanted to get the song out of my chest and into the world. I posted it at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday night with a simple caption. For everyone who has ever been told their voice does not matter. When I woke up 8 hours later, the video had 50,000 views and over 8,000 comments. By the end of the week, it had been viewed 2.3 million times. The song struck a nerve that I had not even realized was exposed. Musicians, writers, artists, and creative professionals from every industry were sharing the video and telling their own stories of creative theft and unacknowledged contributions. The hashtag Unwritten Theft became a rallying cry for anyone who had ever been erased from their own work. But more importantly, the video caught the attention of Maya Rodriguez, an A&R representative from Aurora Records, the same label that had signed Jason. Her direct message was short and intriguing. We need to talk. Are you available for a call this week? I stared at that message for 20 minutes before responding. Aurora Records was Jason's label. Maya Rodriguez might even be someone who had worked on his album. Was this a trap? Was Jason somehow behind this outreach, trying to control the narrative before it spiraled beyond his influence? But curiosity won over caution, and I agreed to a phone call that Friday afternoon. Lena, Maya said when I answered, her voice warm but professional. I am going to cut straight to the chase. That song you posted, Unwritten Theft, it is incredible. The writing, the emotion, the authenticity. It is exactly what we are looking for in new artists. Thank you, I managed, still not sure where this conversation was heading. I want to fly you out to Los Angeles next week to meet with our team. We would like to discuss the possibility of offering you a recording contract. My heart stopped. A recording contract? We have been following your social media for the past few months, and honestly, your songwriting is some of the most compelling material we have heard in years. That video was just the confirmation we needed that you have the artistic vision and authentic voice that audiences are craving right now. I was quiet for so long that Maya asked if I was still on the line. I am here, I said. I am just surprised. Can I ask you something? Maya said, her tone shifting slightly. And please feel free to tell me if this is too personal, or if I am overstepping. But that song, Unwritten Theft, it feels very specific. Very personal. Is it about someone in particular? This was the moment. The moment when I could either protect Jason's career and continue living in the shadows, or tell the truth and face whatever consequences followed. I took a deep breath and made my choice. Yes, I said. It is about someone very specific. Someone who has been performing my songs under his own name for over a year. Maya was quiet for a moment. And this person, would he happen to be an artist signed to Aurora Records? My silence was answer enough. Lena, Maya said carefully, I think we need to have a much longer conversation. Are you free to come in on Monday instead of next week? The meeting at Aurora Records was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Maya introduced me to the head of A&R, the VP of Creative Development, and two other executives whose titles I immediately forgot, because my brain was too overwhelmed to process normal information. They had done their homework. Before I even sat down, they presented me with a folder containing printouts of my social media posts, analytics from my viral video, and what appeared to be a detailed timeline of my online activity over the past several months. We want to understand exactly what happened, Maya said as we settled into a conference room overlooking the Hollywood Hills. And more importantly, we want to understand what you want to happen moving forward. So I told them everything. I told them about meeting Jason, about the months of giving him my songs, about watching him perform my most personal creations to audiences who believed they were witnessing his authentic artistic expression. I told them about the promises he had made and broken, about the way he had gradually convinced himself that his contributions as a performer somehow made him the true author of my work. And then I showed them the receipts, the emails, the text messages, the original voice recordings of me singing the songs that had become Jason's biggest hits. The timestamps that proved beyond any doubt that I had created every element of those songs months before he had ever performed them publicly. The executives exchanged glances that I could not read. But Maya leaned forward with an expression that looked almost hungry. "Lena," she said, "how would you feel about re-recording some of these songs? With full creative control, full ownership, and your name as the sole credited songwriter." "But Jason already recorded them," I said. "Would not that create some kind of legal conflict?" "Actually," said David Chin, the head of A&R, "we have looked into this, and because Jason never filed proper copyright paperwork for the underlying compositions, and because you have clear evidence of prior creation and ownership, you have a very strong legal claim to these songs." My head was spinning. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means," Maya said with a smile that was part sympathetic and part predatory, "that Jason has been performing copyrighted material without permission from the actual copyright holder, which is you." They offered me a recording contract that included a 6-figure advance, full creative control over my debut album, and most importantly, the resources to re-record and release my own versions of the songs that Jason had stolen. "We want to be very clear about something," David said as we reviewed the contract terms. "This is not about revenge or payback or creating drama for the sake of publicity. This is about correcting an injustice and giving proper credit to an incredibly talented songwriter who deserves recognition for her work." But even as he said it, I could see the gleam in their eyes that suggested they were very aware of the publicity potential of my story. I signed the contract that afternoon. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of studio sessions, producer meetings, and artistic collaboration unlike anything I had ever experienced. Working with Aurora Records' team, I re-recorded 5 of my songs that had appeared on Jason's album, along with 3 new compositions including an expanded version of Unwritten Theft. But the crown jewel of the album was a track called Echoes and Acknowledgements, which incorporated actual voice messages that Jason had sent me during our relationship. With the help of Aurora's legal team, I was able to use portions of these recordings under fair use provisions, since they were being used to provide evidence and context for the original creative works. The most devastating moment on the track was a clip of Jason's voice saying, "No one would believe you wrote this," followed immediately by my voice singing the chorus of Shattered Glass, in its original, intimate acoustic arrangement. The juxtaposition was heartbreaking and infuriating and empowering all at once. When my album, titled Stolen Songs and Second Chances, was released in November, it debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200. Unwritten Theft reached number 3 on the Hot 100 and stayed in the top 10 for 14 weeks. The music video, which featured side-by-side footage of me performing the song in my tiny apartment versus Jason performing my songs on various stages, became one of the most watched music videos of the year. But more than the commercial success, what meant the most to me was the response from other artists and creators who had experienced similar situations. My social media accounts were flooded with messages from musicians, writers, visual artists, and creative professionals who had been inspired to speak up about their own experiences with creative theft and unacknowledged collaboration. Jason, meanwhile, watched his career implode in real time. When my story went public, music journalists and industry professionals began examining his claims about songwriting and creative authenticity. The timeline of his creative output versus my documented work made it clear that he had built his entire artistic identity on stolen material. Aurora Records dropped him from their roster within 2 weeks of my album announcement. His booking agent stopped returning his calls. Radio stations pulled his songs from rotation, and streaming platforms added disclaimers to his tracks indicating disputed songwriting credits.